Hi. Today we are in Malta, an island in the Mediterranean Sea between Sicily and Libya. And while most people think that with agriculture came the end of hunter-gatherers in Europe, there is ample evidence showing that this wasn't the case. In fact, hunter-gatherers continued to thrive throughout Europe until the late Neolithic, when climate change brought about major environmental shifts. So in this episode, I thought we could explore the world of the European hunter-gatherers who thrived right up until the end. And what better place to do that than in Malta? In this episode, we're going to answer the following questions. What was life like for hunter-gatherers in Malta? How did they get from sea to shore? And what was their lifestyle like? So let's get into it. The first thing I want to point out is that by the Neolithic, which began around 6,500 years ago, Malta had already been inhabited for thousands of years. The earliest evidence of humans in Malta dates back to at least 5,400 years ago when small groups of early modern humans arrived from North Africa. It's believed that these early settlers were hunter-gatherers who lived a nomadic or semi-nomadic lifestyle. They hunted wild animals, gathered wild plants and fruits, and lived off the land. Their lifestyle would have been characterized by a deep connection to the natural world and a reliance on the rhythms of the seasons. These early inhabitants were likely small bands of kin groups, maybe between 20 and 50 people, who moved from place to place in search of food and resources. Life would have been tough but also free. The early Maltese hunter-gatherers had no fixed homes, so they would have slept around in the open air in small family groups. They may have made use of caves for shelter during bad weather or used natural rock formations to hide from the elements. These early hunter-gatherers were egalitarian, meaning that there were no chiefs or rulers, just a group of people working together to survive. This egalitarianism meant that decisions would have been made through consensus rather than by a single leader. Their tools would have been simple and made from materials such as stone and bone, and they would have hunted using spears and other primitive weapons. Despite the challenges of this lifestyle, early Maltese hunter-gatherers would have experienced a close connection to nature and each other. Living in small groups would have fostered a sense of community and cooperation, and their way of life would have been deeply intertwined with the natural world. But by 5000 BC, these early hunter-gatherers were gone. Instead, farmers and herders now occupied the islands. Where did the hunter-gatherers go? Did they all leave the island? Did they adopt the new lifestyle? Well, the truth is, scientists don't know. What they do know is that the farmers and herders weren't the only ones on the island. By the Copper Age, which started around 3900 BC in Malta, hunter-gatherers were still present. In the heart of the Mediterranean, amidst the azure waters and warm climate, the Copper Age in Malta stands out as a testament to the island's rich history. This period marked a significant shift in Maltese society from the earlier Neolithic era with the introduction of new technologies and cultural practices. Agriculture continued to be the backbone of the economy, but animal domestication played a more prominent role, particularly in the raising of goats and sheep. This development led to an increase in population and the establishment of larger settlements. During the Copper Age, the Maltese started working with copper, which was more malleable than stone and could be used to create more sophisticated tools and ornaments. These copper tools were not only sharper and more durable, but also lighter than their stone counterparts, making them easier to use. They ranged from small knives to larger tools used for farming and other domestic tasks. The Maltese people also developed distinctive pottery styles characterized by intricate geometric designs and patterns. These ceramic vessels were not just for practical use, but also served as a means of displaying the owner's social status and artistic taste. Religious beliefs and practices during the Copper Age were likely influenced by neighboring cultures, such as the Egyptians and the Mycenaeans. The Maltese people continued to venerate various deities associated with fertility, the sky, and the underworld. However, evidence of new religious iconography suggests the arrival of external influences. The period also witnessed the construction of more substantial buildings and structures, including temples dedicated to religious rituals and communal spaces for gatherings. These architectural developments reflect the growing complexity of Maltese society and its increasing need for organized public areas. The Copper Age in Malta was a time of significant cultural exchange, technological advancement, and societal growth. While much of the Mediterranean was undergoing major changes with the late Neolithic, here in Malta, the Copper Age ended around 2500 BC, and soon after farmers and herders left the islands once again, hunter-gatherers become the primary inhabitants. Scientists believe that the reason why the hunter-gatherers thrived in Malta was down to two main things. Firstly, Malta's location in the Mediterranean provided an abundance of marine resources. The surrounding waters were, and still are, teeming with fish and other seafood, making it a veritable paradise for those who lived off the coast. Secondly, Malta's unique geography ensured a year-round supply of wild plants and fruits, providing sustenance even when the seas were not bountiful. This combination of marine and plant-based resources allowed hunter-gatherers to develop a sustainable lifestyle that was both diverse and nourishing. Moreover, Malta's relatively small size meant that these resources were widely accessible, fostering a strong sense of community and cooperation among the hunter-gatherers. They likely shared their knowledge of the best fishing spots and the seasonal availability of wild foods, ensuring everyone had access to the sustenance they needed to survive. Furthermore, the Mediterranean climate of Malta, characterized by warm temperatures and ample sunshine, made it possible for hunter-gatherers to live comfortably without the need for heavy clothing or shelter. They could move freely across the island, exploiting its diverse habitats from coastal cliffs to rolling hills, always in pursuit of the next meal. So what kind of hunter-gatherer lifestyle would have been typical for these people? To understand their lifestyle, it's essential to realize that hunter-gatherers weren't merely passive observers of nature. They actively shaped their environment and influenced the behavior of the animals they hunted. Through selective hunting, they could control the numbers of certain species, ensuring a balance in the ecosystem. For instance, by targeting male deer, they could influence the sex ratio of the local deer population. This practice not only ensured a steady supply of venison, but also encouraged the breeding of more female deer, thus maintaining a healthy herd. Likewise, their exploitation of plants would have been both strategic and sustainable. They would have targeted the most nutritious and easily harvestable plants while avoiding overharvesting any one species. Their intimate knowledge of the landscape enabled them to identify areas where plants were naturally abundant, reducing the need to travel long distances in search of food. These hunter-gatherers likely had a deep understanding of animal behavior and habitat, which they passed down through generations. This knowledge allowed them to predict animal migrations, track their movements, and identify the best times and locations for hunting. They would have observed animal behavior, learning their habits, migration patterns, and communication signals. Such understanding enabled them to anticipate the availability of different animals at various times of the year and to devise effective hunting strategies. Their intimate knowledge of the terrain also played a crucial role in their survival. They knew the best places to find water, shelter, and medicinal plants, and they understood the seasonal changes in resource availability. This awareness allowed them to adapt to the environment and ensure their well-being in the face of changing conditions. Furthermore, their knowledge of local flora and fauna would have extended to the medicinal properties of plants. They likely had a deep understanding of the healing potential of certain herbs and would have used them to treat ailments and injuries. This practical application of botanical knowledge not only helped them maintain their health, but also ensured the well-being of their communities. To support themselves, these hunter-gatherers relied on a variety of strategies for acquiring food. Fishing was undoubtedly a primary activity, as the surrounding waters offered an abundant source of protein. They likely used simple fishing techniques such as casting nets or using spears to catch fish and other marine life. Additionally, they would have harvested shellfish and seaweed, further diversifying their diet. Gathering wild fruits, vegetables, and nuts would have been another important part of their subsistence strategy. They would have exploited the natural vegetation of the island, collecting edible plants and ensuring a balanced intake of vitamins and minerals. They also hunted wild animals, including rabbits, birds, and small mammals. They employed various hunting methods, from setting traps to using bows and arrows, depending on the target animal and terrain. Moreover, they might have kept domesticated animals such as dogs, which could assist in hunting or provide companionship and protection. Finally, these hunter-gatherers likely engaged in occasional trade or exchange with neighboring communities, obtaining goods or resources not readily available in their immediate vicinity. This interaction with other societies would have exposed them to new ideas, technologies, and cultural practices, contributing to their overall way of life. Life for these hunter-gatherers would have been filled with challenges. Natural disasters, changes in climate, and dwindling resources could threaten their way of life, forcing them to adapt or relocate. They constantly had to contend with the unpredictable nature of food availability, relying on their preparedness and adaptability to overcome these challenges. So there we have it. Malta's hunter-gatherers, a resilient and adaptable people who thrived along the Mediterranean coast. Despite the challenges they faced, these hunter-gatherers found ways to coexist with their environment, shaping it and influencing its bounty. Their deep knowledge of the land and seas, combined with their resourcefulness, allowed them to lead a unique and fulfilling life, one that celebrated the bounty of nature and the freedom of a life less ordinary. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this journey through Europe's rich prehistory as we explored the lives of those who lived before the rise of empires. If you'd like to continue exploring ancient history and archaeology, check out our podcast, where we bring you the most fascinating stories from the past. Also, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel to be notified when we release new videos. Your support means the world to us as we continue to bring history to life for curious minds like yours. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep exploring. Who knows what incredible discoveries await you? Thanks for tuning in.